Hello everyone, Carolyn here and welcome to today's tutorial. Today I will be showing you the Parthenos bracelet designed by Dreamin' Out Loud on Instagram. I'm going to show you her profile real quick on Instagram. If you are not giving her a follow, please go ahead and do so. She is an amazing designer. She has lots of beautiful renditions and designs on her Instagram. So there it is. So like I said, if you are not giving her a follow, please go ahead and do so. Okay, and so for today you will need 3 looms. If you're doing a full wrap, you will need a total of 5. And I'm going to go ahead and put this one aside because I'm going to show you on this one where all the band placement steps are. Okay, and so for today you want your centermost pin down furthest, and then you want to go up a staggered step, and the next 2 pins on both sides are aligned, and then you want to go up a staggered step again. Okay, so that's our pin bar layout. And so without further ado, let's get started. Our first band placement step is going to be these bronze LED bands going up the side. So what you want to do is work your way to these outermost pins and then stop. I'm going to go ahead and drop 2 just to make it easier to close up later on. So you work your way around the perimeter and you're going to stop right there. Alright, and so now we're going to move on to our next band placement step. And in this bracelet, it is the white Persian going up the sides right there. And I'm going to be using the dual layer purple. What you simply want to do is create a zigzag all the way to the top, or if you are doing a full wrap bracelet, I do suggest 21 pin bars or pegs counting up. That's what I used and it seems to fit me perfect. So again, you want to do a zigzag all the way up on both sides. Okay, easy peasy. Alright, so continue doing that the rest of the way up. I'm going to finish mine up and then I'll come back and show you how to close and we'll move on to our next step. Be right back. Alright everybody, I'm back and I've made it to the top of my loom, and to close it off what we're simply going to do is go up at a diagonal from that last zigzag, making sure that it was angled out to the left, and then we're going to go to the left to finish closing that side, and then up to the center diagonally. You're going to repeat that same process, just mirror imaged. So again, you're going to go diagonally, then across, and then diagonally up. Okay, so that's how we close it off. And so for our next band placement step, what we're going to be doing on this bracelet, it is the frost LE bands right there next to the pink LEs, and the bronze going down the center on both sides. Okay. And so what we're going to be doing is working with the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th. Sorry guys. And I'm going to be using 2 different colors. You can use one if you prefer. There's a total of 11 band placement steps, so you have a total of 11 band colors you could use, but I'm not going to be using that many. Okay, so what we're going to do is just create a single chain going up that 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th pin bars. I'm only going to do a few with you on each side, then I'm going to go off, finish that up, and then I'll be back. So again, you want to continue that all the way up. Let me grab my next color that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to use white. And then you're going to go and do a single chain up these pins as well. So easy peasy. Alright, so continue laying the single chain again up the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th pin bars all the way to the top, and I'll be back as soon as I'm done with that. Alright everyone, I'm back, and so I hope your loom looks like this. completing those single chains all the way to the top. And so we're ready for our next band placement step. And in this bracelet, it is the pink LE bands. I'm going along this edge right here in the center. So that's what we're going to be placing now. What you simply want to do is we're going to be working with the second and third, fifth and sixth pin bars again. And you're going to run a diagonal band from the second to the third all the way up the loom. Again, another easy step. Okay, so again, repeating that same thing, just mirror imaged on the opposite side, working from that fifth to sixth pin bar all the way up the loom. I'll straighten that out when I go off. Okay, so just complete this, going all the way up the loom, working with the second, third, fifth, and sixth pin bars. I'm going to complete this, and I'll be right back. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so hopefully your loom looks like this all the way to the top, and you're ready for our next band placement step. And in this bracelet, it is the mother of pearl that you see going along right there. Right there. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to be working with the second, third, fifth, and sixth pin bars again. And what you're simply going to do is place a horizontal band across those pegs, going all the way up the loom. Then you're going to repeat that same process on the fifth and sixth pin bars, just placing the horizontal bands all the way up. Okay, so I'm going to finish that up, and then I'll be right back. Alright everyone, I'm back, and so I hope your loom looks like this all the way to the top. And now we're ready for our next band placement step. And in this bracelet, it is the gold and the maroon going up the center, the little starburst kind of looking bands right there. Okay, I'm sorry my description's not so good. Okay, but what we're going to be doing is working with the third, fourth, and fifth pin bars. And what we want to start by doing is placing a diagonal band. Ooh, that's too loose. Okay, and then we're going to take a secondary color. You could probably use the same color. I'm going to be using 2, and just closing that X off. And then we're going to repeat that process all the way up the loom. So what you want to do again is go in at an angle, and down at an angle, and then up at an angle, and up at an angle. I'm going to do this a couple more times with you, and then I'm going to leave you off because this is a fairly easy step. Again, up at an angle or down, however you're placing. I'm all over the place usually. I go from one side to the next. Okay, and then again up at an angle, and up at an angle, up, and then up. Okay, so that's fairly easy. You just want to continue that the rest of the way up the loom, and I'll be right back once I'm done and ready to move on to the next step. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so I hope your loom looks like this all the way to the top. And so now we're ready for our next band placement step. And in this bracelet, it is the brown from the camouflage pack. Right there, if you can see it, it's kind of hidden. There. Okay. So for our next step, what we're going to be doing is working with the second and the third pin bar, and the fifth and the sixth pin bar again. And what we're going to do is simply place a diagonally band all the way up the loom on both sides. Again, and then on the fifth and sixth, just mirror image it all the way up the loom. Alright, so I'm going to leave you here because this is an easy step. Just continue that all the way up the loom, and I'll be right back. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so hopefully your loom looks like this all the way to the top. Finish with those diagonal bands. And so we're ready for our next band placement step. And in this bracelet, it is going to be the bronze LE bands going up the sides. Right there. Alright. So what I'm going to be using is white. And what you simply want to do, start on your centermost pin bar, and then just work your way all the way around the perimeter, to the left all the way to the top, and then to the right all the way to the top. I'm only going to do a few with you on each side, and then I'll leave off and show you how to close up the top just in case you're wondering. Alright, and again repeat that same process, just mirror image it, so to the right and across and diagonally and then up. Alright, so continue making the single chain all the way up. I'll come back and show you how to close it up, and then we'll be ready for our next step. Be right back. Alright guys, so I've made it to the top of my loom, and what you simply want to do is just continue following the perimeter all the way around and close it back off. I can get it on there, and then repeat the same thing, just mirror image on the opposite side. Alright, so I hope your loom looks like this. I'm going in reverse, so I hope it makes sense to you. Okay, so we're ready for our last band placement step, and then we're going to be placing cap bands after this step, and then we're ready to loom. So for this step, it is the frost LE bands going up the center right there. Okay, and what we simply are going to do is just lay a single chain up the 4th pin bar all the way to the top. So again, another easy step. I'll fix that one. Alright, so just continue laying that single chain all the way up the 4th pin bar. I'll be right back, show you how to place the capping bands, and then we're ready to loom. Be right back. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so I hope your loom looks like this all the way to the top. And I pressed mine down as I went, but you might want to make sure that your center bands are pushed down, because we're going to be placing cap bands on this pin bar now. And in this bracelet, it is the brown right in there. Okay, I'm going to be using white. What you simply want to do is on that center pin bar, go up a peg and then place a triple cap band. However you prefer to do it, whether it be on the loom, on your hook, on your finger, whatever's easiest on you. You just want to continue placing the triple loop cap band, sorry, all the way up the loom. I'll do one more with you, and then I'm going to go off all the way to the top. Da, 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 da. Now if you're using a different band color than the perimeter, when you get to the top, you have the option of going ahead and using your perimeter color or using the color that you were using down the center. Okay, so I'm going to go off screen, finish this up, and I'll be right back, and we're ready to loom as soon as I come back. So I'll be right back. Alright guys, I'm back. So hopefully you have your loom all capped up to the end, and so you can go ahead and turn it around. And now we are ready to start the looming process. Alright, and what you want to do is go into that center pin bar, and we're simply going to pull that single chain all the way up. Easy peasy. Just pushing that capping band back, grabbing that forward band and looping it straight up. Okay, so I'm going to go off, finish this up, and I'll be right back when we're ready to go to our next looming step. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so hopefully you've got your single chain loomed up all the way to the top, and we're ready for our next step. In our next step, we're going to go into the centermost pin bar again and work that perimeter back to itself, all the way up and around on both sides. I'm just going to do a few with you on each side, and then I'll come back and show you how to close it up. So you want to repeat that on the right side, just mirror image. So go in, pulling everything back to their corresponding home post, closing that perimeter all the way up the loom. Alright, so I'm going to leave you here. I'll come back as soon as I get to the top and show you how to close. Be right back. Alright everybody, so I've made it to the top of my loom, and to close off the top, all you want to do is just continue pulling each band back to their corresponding home post till you get to that centermost pin bar. And then again on the right side, do the same thing, just mirror image to close it up. Alright, and so now we're ready for our next looming step. Sorry. Alright, and we're going to be working with the 2nd and the 6th pin bars. And what we're going to do is go in and grab that diagonal band and pull it up. And if yours pops off, just bring it back down like that. And again, so just continue that all the way up the loom, going in that 2nd pin bar, grabbing the diagonal band and looping it forward all the way up the loom. And I'm going to jump over and show you what to do on the 6th pin bar. So again, you go in, grab that diagonal band and pull it straight forward. Easy peasy. So you should be looping it forward, and it should be directly across from their corresponding home post. So if you've got it right beside the original home post, you know you've got it right. So continue that the rest of the way up the loom. I'm going to finish mine up, and I'll be right back when we're ready to move on to our next looming step. Alright everybody, so I hope your loom looks like this all the way to the top. And so now we're ready for our next looping step. We're going to be working with the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th pin bars. What we're going to do is go into the 2nd pin bar, grab that horizontal band, and just loop it back to its corresponding home post all the way up the loom. So again, another easy step. And you want to repeat the same process on the 6th pin bar, pulling them into the 5th pin bar. All the way up the loom. Do 1 or 2 more with you, and then I'm going to leave you off because this is fairly easy. I love how these easy steps look so just detail oriented in the finished bracelet. I just absolutely love this design. Okay, so finish this the rest of the way up the loom, and I'll be right back when we're ready to move on to our next looming step. Be right back. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so hopefully your loom looks like this all the way to the top. And so we're ready for our next looming step. We're going to be working with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th pin bars. What we're going to do is go into the 4th pin bar through that cat band, pull the topmost band back to its corresponding home post, and then just work your way from that centermost pin bar, looping those bands back to their corresponding home post. Once you've looped the last one to the right, you want to go up 1 and repeat that same process. So go in, grab the topmost band, pull it back to its corresponding home post, and then go back in and loop those bands up to their corresponding home post. Go up 1, topmost band, back to its home post, and then back up to their corresponding home post. I'll do this once or twice more with you, and then I'm going to go off and finish it up. So you go into the cap band, pull that band back to its corresponding home post, repeating that for the opposite side. You go back in, pull the next band up to their corresponding home post, repeating that for the next side. So down to the left, down to the right, up to the left, up to the right. Alright, so I'm going to go off, finish that up, and I'll be right back when we're ready to move on to our next step. Be right back. Alright everyone, I'm back, and so I hope your loom looks like this all the way to the top, looping those X's back to their corresponding home post. And so now we're ready to move on to our next looming step. We're going to be working with the 3rd and the 5th pin bar, or the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th pin bar. Sorry guys. What you want to do is go into the 3rd pin bar, grab that diagonal band, if I can get it on my hook, there we go, and just loom it over to the side. Okay, so again, go into the 3rd pin bar, grab that diagonal band, and pull it over to the side. Repeating this all the way up the loom, going in, grabbing that diagonal band, and pulling it over to the side. Alright, and you want to repeat the same process on the 5th pin bar. So you go into the 5th, grab that diagonal, and pull it over to the 6th. Repeating this all the way up the loom. Do a few more with you, and then I'm going to go off and finish up. So go in, grab the diagonal band, pull it over to the side. And it should be pulling over to the peg down from their corresponding home post. So, or directly beside where you're pulling from, whichever is easier for you to understand. Okay, so you just want to continue this the rest of the way up. So going into the pin bar, pulling it back to the side. Alright, so finish that the rest of the way up the loom, and I'll be back as soon as I'm done and ready for our next step. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so I hope your loom looks like this. Finish pulling those diagonal bands, and now we're ready for our next looming step. We're going to be working with the 3rd and the 5th pin bar. We're going to go in and grab that straightforward band and just loop it to itself all the way up the loom. So just straight forward, easy peasy. Okay, and then again you want to go in on that bottommost peg and just loop those straightforward bands back to themselves all the way up the loom. Alright, so I'm going to go off screen, finish this up, and I'll be right back when we're ready for our next looming step. Be right back. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so hopefully you've got those single chains looped up all the way to the top. And so now we are ready for our next looming step. And what we are going to do, or we're going to be working with the 2nd and the 6th pin bars. So you're going to go into the 2nd pin bar and loop that straightforward band forward. Okay, but before we loop the next band up, we're going to be using Looming Roach's step, and we're going to, let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit for you. Here we go. Okay, we're going to go in and grab that bottommost diagonal band, this one right here, and we're going to loop it up and around. Okay, and then we're going to loop that single chain forward. And again, we're going to go in and grab that diagonal band and loop it up and over, and then loop our single chain forward. The band that you're grabbing should be the, mine is the purple and pink Persian. I'm not exactly, it's the diagonal band going this way. So that's the one that we're going to be looping up and over. So we loop that up and over, and then we loop the single chain forward, and then up and over the next one, and then loop that single chain forward, and then up and over, and then loop the single chain forward, up and over, single chain forward. Okay, so you want to continue that up the second pin bar, and then on the sixth pin bar we're going to do the same process. We're going to go in, pull that single chain forward, but before we loop our next single chain forward, we're going to go in, grab that bottom band and loop it up and over. It should be the same color or same color band that you have right here. So just in case you're having a hard time finding which band, corresponding band. Okay, so loop the single chain up and then up and over the last band, single chain forward, up and over using Looming Roach's step, or technique rather, then single chain forward, and then again up and around, forward, and then up and around, whoop, and then forward. I'll show you one or two more times, and then I'm going to go off and finish it up. So we've just looped our single chain forward, so now we want to go in and grab that band and bring it up and around, and then our single chain, and then up and around that bottom band, and then our single chain. Alright guys, so here's where I'm going to leave you. Continue doing that the rest of the way up the loom. If you are lost, please rewind and then catch back up with us as soon as we're ready for our next looming step. So I'll be right back in just a second. Alright everybody, I'm back, and so hopefully your loom looks like this all the way to the top. And so we're ready for our final looping step. What we're going to do is go into the fourth pin bar, grab that topmost band and pull it back to its corresponding home post, and work the perimeter all the way to the left. We're going to freeze right there, go back into the fourth pin bar, work that perimeter back out to the right, and then stop right there. And so what our next step is going to be is to go in and grab these zigzag bands and simply loop them back to their corresponding home post all the way up the loom. So just working that zigzag all the way up on both sides. I'm going to do one or two more with you on this side, and then I'm going to go off, or excuse me, go to the other side, show you that one, and then I'm going to go off and finish it up. Okay, and so now you want to do the same thing on the opposite side. Go in, grab that zigzag band, pull it towards the center, and then simply zigzag all the way up the loom. Alright, fairly easy. So I'm going to leave you off right here. Finish that all the way up the rest of the loom, and I'll be right back to show you how to close, and then we'll be done. Be right back. Alright everybody, so I finished looping those zigzags all the way to the top, and so now we are ready to close off our bracelet. And what we are simply going to do is go into the topmost peg and pull the perimeter back to its corresponding home post all the way to the center. I'm going to the side, and then that one should go up. Do the same thing, mirror image on the opposite side, going in, pulling those bands back to their corresponding home post. Ooh, doo, doo. There we go. Alright, and now what we're going to do is is go in, had to just move the loom around for a second. We're going to go in and grab these bands and close off our bracelet. I can grab them. Yes. Okay, and then take your C-clip and just attach it to those bands. I can get it on there. I always have such a hard time with this one, especially when I'm filming. I think I got them. Yeah. Okay, so now we are ready to take our bracelet off of the loom. And what I do is I just pop it off with my hook instead of ripping it off. Alright, start with the edges and then just work your way down the center. Find that easier. Alright, so I'm not going to make you watch. I'm going to go off, finish this up, and I'll be right back and I'll show you our finished bracelet. Be right back. Alright everybody, so I've gotten it off the loom and this is the finished bracelet. This is the Parthenos bracelet by Dreamin' Out Loud. I absolutely love this design. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe by hitting the little red button below. If you've liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And again, if you're not following Dreamin' Out Loud on Instagram, please go give her and I a follow. And my name on there is at Carolyn Hamlin. Again, I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. If you have any comments on how I can make the tutorials better, please comment below. I will try to get back with you if you leave a comment or a question. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy. Loom on, everybody, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.